Jessie picked up the coffee cup on the worn linoleum countertop from her last customer of the day. Her blonde hair fell in long sheets around her heart-shaped face as she cleaned up the plates and silverware left behind by the diners. She had been a waitress for several months now at the Greasy Spoon, and it lived up to its name. Serving plentiful portions of diner foods, it was a cheap eating spot for the locals and travelers alike to the quaint town of Sales Shores. Jessie was in her late 20s, pretty in a subtle way, and more likely to be withdrawn than outspoken. As she placed the last dish into the dish tub, she noticed a headline on that day's newspaper. "The Phantom strikes in again." It was proclaimed in bold print. Picking up the paper, she skimmed the article. Another young woman had been slain in a town not far from Sales Shores. Backwater Bay was twice the size of Sales Shores and had lately a rash of murders of attractive young women. Young women who went missing from their daily lives only to turn up dead on the side of the road weeks or even months later. The police so far had no leads. Increased patrols had found nothing to lead to the elusive killer. So many people said it was like a phantom in the night that the papers had taken to calling him that. Jessie shook her head sadly, tossing the paper into the trash. "Jessie, what are you doing, honey?" came her boss from the diner's cramped kitchen. "It's about time to close up," Ellen said. Jessie called into the kitchen. "Of course, just finishing cleaning up." Jessie looked up as the doorbell chimed. Cursing her forgetfulness at not locking the door as the stranger entered, she quickly pasted a bright smile on her face and raised her eyes to his. Tall, muscular, and definitely handsome, she noticed with a small blush. He was the type of man seldom seen in their town. Removing the mirrored sunglasses from his eyes glinted from a face that could have only been sculpted by the gods, his gaze piercing as Jessie bumbled out, "I'm sorry, sir, but we are closing." He froze, statue-like for a moment after he was already seated. The voice that emanated from his mouth was every bit as attractive as the rest of him. "Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were still open as the door was unlocked. Is there anywhere else a weary traveler can get a drink?" "For a nice restaurant, there is Roberto's down the street a bit. Good seafood." "And more your class," was her unspoken thought. He got up from his seat, gaze resting on her face. With a brief smile, he reached out into his pocket and pulled out a billfold, extracting a bill from it. He placed the bill on the table with a smile and said, "For your troubles, miss, and thank you for the suggestion." With that, he left, the doorbell chiming cheerily behind him. The scent of an expensive cologne was the only thing left behind. Jessie looked at the table and gasped. Upon the worn placement sat a $100 bill, more than her pay for 3 days of work. Ellen came out as she stood clutching the bill. "Wow, girl, that's what I call a lucky break," she said. Jessie looked out the door. There was no sight of the gentleman, but she was very grateful. Men like him were almost unheard of, but she now believes they existed. Smiling, she laughed joyfully. Tonight she could even go out to eat for a change. As the ladies talked about the exciting visitor, they were unaware of the attention Jessie had garnered. He laughed to himself as he parked the black Audi in front of a building. Unexpected this day, to be sure. He hadn't expected to find a girl so soon after his last disappointment. He turned to look up the street at the shabby little diner. What a diamond in the rough, he mused. But already the proper attitude of deference was there. She'd called him sir twice and even blushed. He felt the familiar stirring inside, the hope, yes, even the excitement. Perhaps this one would be different. Maybe she would, he mused. With one last look, he handed the keys of his car to a valet and stepped inside the restaurant she had recommended with plans already forming in his mind.